Chapter 18, Creating Assembly Drawings in AutoCAD. A few years back, I decided to turn this into an extra credit assignment. So our assignment will be 100 points, and it's extra credit. This is the last chapter for CAD 5 AutoCAD, and it is a big assignment. Again, extra credit. Okay, so what are we going to learn in Chapter 18? How to use individual part views to construct and assembly drawings. So we're going to learn how to cheat and use our detailed drawings to help us create our assembly drawings in AutoCAD. You will also learn how to balloon an assembly and make a parts list, also referred to as the BOM or bill of material. Key points: selecting the correct base point. Insertion point will simplify the process. Okay, so we're going to be using a move and copy command to create our assembly. The assembly drawing is usually created after all detailed part drawings are completed. Okay, once all parts are combined into one file, an assembly may be created using various modify commands such as move command, copy command, and commands such as rotate or symmetry. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our drawing from the previous chapter. So I'm going to use the problem 17-3 from the previous chapter to demonstrate how to do this in AutoCAD. And then I'll provide you with the assignment, the extra credit assignment for Chapter 18. Okay, so let's take a look at 17-3 from the previous chapter. And one of the things that we can do is use some of the views from our detailed drawing. So here's the front view of the center bracket. Here's the front view of the end bracket. We can use these to combine them to create our assembly drawing. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So instead of having to draw the base, the end bracket, and center plate bracket from scratch, we can use our detailed drawings to create our assembly drawing by making copies. Okay, so let's take a look at our handout from problem 17-3. Okay, so as you remember, we had to create our parts list. We had to fill out the balloons, right? The balloons gives us the item number or part number. So item 1 is the base. So we go to balloon number 1, and that's the base. Item 2 is the end bracket. Okay, so item 2 is the end bracket, and we have 2 of them, and so on. Okay, so instead of having to draw this from scratch in AutoCAD, we can use our detailed drawings. So let's go over to the detailed drawings. So we can copy this view, the base. Yeah, we're going to have to rotate it 180. So we'll use our base here, this view, the front view of the end bracket, and the front view of the center plate bracket to create our, let's go back, to create our assembly drawing. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate that in AutoCAD, how to cheat by making copies of our views to generate our assembly drawing. Okay, so let's go to AutoCAD. Okay, so these are incomplete detailed drawings, but just to show our concept for today of how to cheat to create our assembly, here we have our base, our end bracket, and our center plate bracket. Okay, so using these views, I can copy, paste, move, rotate to create my assembly drawing. So I'm going to walk you through how I created this assembly drawing step by step, then how to create balloons and parts list tables. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me go ahead and show you how I created the assembly drawing. I'm going to go ahead and create it down here. Okay, so I'm going to start by making a copy of the base. So this is the base. Okay, and I'm going to make a copy. Make a copy. So I need to grab it by a point. Okay, I'll grab it from this corner. Currently I have ortho off. If I had ortho on, I could only go vertical or horizontal. So let me turn off ortho, and I'll place it here. And I can keep on clicking to create more copies, but I'm done. So I'm just going to hit enter to exit. Okay, so obviously you can see that this is upside down. Okay, so I'm going to have to rotate it 180. Okay, so I'm going to pre-select it first. Left mouse click, pre-selected. I'm going to use rotate. Pick a point to rotate about. Okay, I'll go ahead and pick this point here. And I can now rotate by moving my mouse. I'm going to turn on ortho, so it'll go in increments of 90 degrees. And there it is. And click once you have the desired angle, in this case 180. Okay, let me move it over to the right. So I'm going to window select again, use the move command, and I'm just going to move it over to the right a little bit. Okay, so you can see now that these are supposed to be wide visible object lines because this is a section view. So this is a section assembly. So in my case, in our case, we have to change these to visible lines. So I can just simply select the lines. I can select them by clicking one at a time. Or I can also window capture. Okay, and I'm just going to move them over to the visible layer. There it goes. Move it over to the visible and hit escape to deselect. Okay, starting to look similar now. And again, we're doing this because this is a section view. Section view, no hidden lines allowed. Okay, so now I'm going to bring over the end bracket. Okay, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to make a copy. Okay, I'm going to make a copy. This time, I want to line up the center axis with this axis. So my insertion point, as mentioned in the lecture notes, I'm going to pick this as my insertion point. Okay, where the center line intersects the object line. That'll be my insertion point, that intersection point. Click. So that's where I'm grabbing it from, and I'm going to turn off ortho. Let me turn off ortho so I have more freedom to move. And here is the point I'm going to. I'm going to select the intersection between the green center line and the object line of the base and click. And there it is. Okay, so now I'm going to hit escape to exit or hit enter to exit. And there's my end bracket. Okay, once again, I'm going to take the red hidden lines, select them, and move them over to the visible object layer. Okay, there we have it. Hit escape to deselect. All right, so now I'm going to make a copy of this over to this side. Okay, one thing I do need is I need a center line, but I'll come back. I'll come back and do the other end bracket. Let me first bring in the center plate. Okay, so let's bring in the center plate. Just as showing up here on the left, upper corner. Okay, so let's go to the center plate or bracket. I'm going to window capture. I'm going to make a copy. And this time I'm going to select the intersection between the center line and the object line. Okay, that'll be my insertion point. Let's go over to our new assembly drawing. And I'm going to pick the green center line and the intersection with the object line of the end bracket. And click. And now see how they line up. And hit escape or enter to exit. Okay, and once again, we got to take our red hidden lines. And move them over to the visible object layer. Okay, hit escape to deselect. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, now we need to mirror over the end bracket over to this side. And I'm going to use the center line to mirror about. Okay, so let me first select the items I need to mirror over. That should be enough. Oh, and the center line. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and use the mirror command. Click on it. I'm going to select this line, but I got to select its endpoints. Click. Notice how it's free to move. It's free to move until I select the second endpoint and click. And I got it, except I missed this line. Hit escape. I missed this line, so let me do it over again. I missed this line, so let me do it over again one more time. I hit escape to exit the command. I'll just do it over again. Okay, this time I think I got everything. So let's go ahead and once again, mirror. Once again, I'll use the center line. And click and read the instructions. Do you want to erase the original one? The default is no, so I can just hit enter and hit escape to exit. And there we have it. See how fast that was to create our assembly using our detail drawings. Did we cheat? Yes, we did. Right, so now when it comes to hardware, let's go back to the lecture. Okay, so we're gonna have to model hardware bolts, nuts. But we do have an option here that we can use. And it's something that I mentioned in a previous lecture. Okay, I think it was the View tab. Let's see, let's go to the View tab. Okay, so go to the View tab. So we do have catalogs of hardware that we can, and symbols that we can use. Go to the View tab. Go to the Tool Palettes. And we have all these tabs here, so we can use symbols. So we have modeling symbols. We have constraints, annotation, imperial samples. So I can scroll down. So we have flowchart annotations. Architecture, the architecture students, they use these catalogs quite a bit. So for example, here they have an aluminum window frame. They have trees. They have doors. Hey, let's bring in the trees just for fun. Click on trees and it'll bring in trees, as you can see. So they don't have to model the toilets. Here we go, toilet. There it is, there's a toilet. Let's also bring in an aluminum window, click. The cool thing about these is that you can change the size of the window. The toilet is standard, but the windows, you can change the size. Also bring in a door. Okay, and we can also bring in a vehicle if we want. So we also have a vehicle that we can bring in. Pontiac GTO, it seems like. Oh, let me go back to AutoCAD. I misclicked. I'll just place it here. Okay, let me go ahead and exit. So these are called blocks, and in our last lecture, for our next class session, I will show you how to create your own blocks. So these are blocks that have been saved in AutoCAD, and they are in the catalog, so we can use them, especially for architecture. This is awesome. So you don't have to model trees and windows and doors and toilets and sinks. You can just pick it from our catalog here in AutoCAD. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Okay, so the reason I wanted to show you the tool palettes command is because there's also hardware bolts, nuts. So let's go ahead and go back to tool palettes. So we have mechanical, and here we have it. We have hex head bolts, right? We have socket head bolts, and there's also hex nuts. Okay, so you don't have to model your own bolts. You can go ahead and bring in a bolt. And it's going to be super tiny. Let me zoom in. So I'm zooming in. And click. And the cool thing about it is you can change the size. You can change the diameter. Change the length. Okay, so for our example, this bolt is a little too small. We can always use scale. So let me go ahead and insert a hex also, a hex nut next to the bolt. Then I'll change the size. So I'm zooming in, rolling the wheel. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close this. But before I do, I just wanted to also show you that there's electrical symbols, civil engineering symbols, structural symbols, I-beams, hatching patterns, and we also have tables. We'll discuss tables in a few minutes using a different command. Okay, so let me go ahead and close that. All right, so we can use this hex nut and we can increase its size. So this is metric millimeters. Let's go to M14, and we can use the grips to move it around. Let me use the grip to get it closer. Obviously, this is way too small. We're gonna have to scale it up. I'm gonna use the bolt here, same thing, get it closer. Hit escape. Okay, so I can increase the size, but there's a limit up here, so I'm gonna have to use the scale command to make it larger. Okay, so let me hit escape. So I'm gonna go over to Home tab, and I'm gonna scale it up. So I'm gonna use scale. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this bolt, and I'm gonna modify it, and pick a point, any point. So we can increase the size. Let me go 4 times. I'm going to type in 4, enter, and that's 4 times. Okay, it's kind of close. Let me go ahead and move this. Grab it from this midpoint and move it over here. Okay, there it is. Hit escape. Okay, it's obviously a little bit too small, but that's okay. I can always click on it. And I can scale up from this point right here. Scale it up from this point and just slowly, gradually pull away. And I'm just guessing, so I'll just click. Okay, close enough. Hit escape. Okay, now the hex nut. The hex nut, it's a little too small. We got the wrong view. We don't want the front view, we want a side view. Let's go back to the palettes and see if we have a side view. So go to View tab, go to Tool Palettes. Let's see if I have a side view of a hex nut. Go to Mechanical tab, and it looks like I don't have one. So one thing I can always do is take the hex nut, trace it around, and then I can move it over, copy it over. So let me go ahead and close this up. Now this is a joined entity made up of a bunch of lines. And again, this is referred to as a block. I'll show you how to create a block in the next lecture. Okay, so I cannot alter this, but you know what I'm going to do is trace around it. I'm going to create lines. So let's go to the Home tab. I'm going to use the line command to create a side view of a hex nut. I have to come back and fix that. Let me turn on ortho. Should I had that on? Let me start from scratch. Let me do it over again. I did not have ortho on. So let me redraw that line again. Delete. Okay, so I have ortho on. Use a line command. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and hit escape. Then I'm going to draw my two horizontal lines here. Okay, hit escape. All right, so let me temporarily move my bolt here. Just move it out of the way. And I'm going to window capture these new lines I just created. Now I should actually move it over to the object line. Let me move it first. And I'm going to go ahead and move it over. Pick it from the midpoint and move it over here to the right. Okay, there it is. And I accidentally also changed the bolt to visible lines, which is fine. It was a mistake, but that's what I was going to do anyway. Okay, so hit escape. So there it is. We have our bolt and the hex nut. And a reminder, when it comes to hex nuts, bolts, washers, hardware, we do not use hatching lines. And another reminder, no hidden lines in a section view. Okay. All right, so that's what I wanted to demonstrate on how to use your detail views to create your assembly. Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Okay, next thing we're going to do is create tables. So how do we create our table for our parts list? By the way, you can also create this in Excel and then insert it. Okay, so let's do it manually first, and then I'll show you how to insert a Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so we're going to go to the Annotate tab and then go to the table. And we're going to set up our parameters. Maybe just go with the default parameters. All right, so let's go ahead and create our own table. So go to Annotate. And let's go to the table command. So here's the table command. Click. Okay, so what do we have here? So how many columns do you want? How many rows? So I'm just going to randomly pick some numbers. Let's say I want 5 columns, 5 rows. What width? What height you want? We also have a title. Do you want a title at the top? Do you want a header per column? Let's go back to our... So you have the option of having a title for your table and a header for each column, like item number, material, quantity, etc. Now the only issue with this is that the font with respect to the data you input with respect to the title and the headers are not the same. So I prefer to leave them out and just type in data. Just keep in mind that the text site and the data is not the same as the text site for the title and header. You have to go to different settings to change those, which can be a little annoying. So I prefer just to type in data and only data. Okay, so first row, I'm just going to type in data. Second row, I'm also going to just type in data and not header. And from there on, all the others will be data. So we're going to manually type in data, whether it's numbers or parts list, my mistake, or part numbers or material. Okay, so you can go ahead and hit OK. We can go ahead and insert it and click to insert. There it is. Okay, cool thing is I think we should be able to join the cells. Oh, I'm getting my softwares mixed up. I was hoping I could join these cells and then type in my title. So actually I'm going to go back and recreate my table again, and this time I'll do it with the title. Let me go back just to show you the difference. So this time we will keep a title for the first row and data for the second row instead of headers, and leave the last one as data. 5 rows, 5 columns. We have our width and our height. And OK. And insert it. And we have to zoom in. Yeah, this is the title, parts list, or bill of material. And always use capital letters. Okay, and click away. So that's what I wanted to emphasize, is that the text for your title doesn't match the text height or style for the data. So for our header here, we can type in, I'm going to double click and type in item or item number. Notice how the text is different. And let me click outside. And obviously this is way too small of a table for our text. So we can go ahead and use our grips here to change the size of our, so I'm going to pull on the arrow, make this longer. So I chose the wrong column height and column width, which is okay. Let's see if I can make this. So you can see this column is way too large. So let's see if I can right click here and go to, see if I have the option to change the height. I'm surprised I can't change the height on this one. Okay, there it is. How to use this grip. Okay, there it is. And hit escape. Okay, so here we have our item. Okay, so here we're going to have our, let's go to our, actually forgot, so let's go back to our assignment. So this is from chapter 17. So we have part name, required, and material. Okay, so let's go to part name. So let me go ahead and adjust this one using the grips. There it is, part name. And the next one is required or quantity. Typically it's quantity or QTY. Let's go to the next one. Use the grips to make it longer or wider. And finally, material. Okay, we'll leave the last column blank. Whoa. There's material, click away. Okay, so notice that our text is not centered, so we need to center our text. Let me see if I can pick the entire row. So instead of going one cell at a time. Okay, so I click the entire row. I know it's hard to see, but we select this edge here. So this is row 1, row 2, and we should be able to center our text. Let's see, so right now it's top center. Let's see, middle center. There it is, middle center, so it centers our text. Okay, now we can go ahead and go, you know what, we're going to do the same thing for all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click at this upper left little box here. Okay, click on it, see if I can change, I'm trying to see if I can change all my text. Yep, there it is, text, middle center. Okay, so all my text will be middle center inside the cell. Okay, then I can go item 1. Double click on the next box, item 2, and so on. Okay, item 1 is the base. We need a quantity of 1. And the material was steel. Okay, we can leave the last column blank. All right, so also if you need to change the text, if the text is too small or too big, you can always go back, hit escape. You can either do it individually, but in our case, we want to do the whole thing. So I should be able to click here and change the text height. Let me right click, see if it gives me options. Okay, so I'm going to right click inside this box. Here it is, edit text. So this is where I can go to change our. So I got to go to annotate and edit text. Let's see if I click in this box again. Let's say I wanted to make it smaller. Oh, it's not allowing me to. Let me hit escape. Let me get out of this. Once again, right click. All right, I'm not able to do it from the table. Maybe I have to go to, let's go here to the table panel. Here's the table panel. Go down here and we're going to go to table style and click. And we're going to go to modify, see if we can modify the text from here. All right, so let's see. We have our horizontal and vertical margins. Let's go to text. Here's the text. So here's the text tab. So once again, we click here on tables style. Here's our text. Let's see what happens if I change the text to something smaller. So instead of 5, let me try 2. And hit OK. And close it. And it changed the text height. Okay, let's go back. So I'm going to click on the table. Actually, I didn't have to click on the table. Let me hit escape. Go to standard, modify, go to the text tab, and we can change it back to 5. And OK. And close. Let's see if I can change the parts list on its own. Double click, highlight, and let's see if I can change it from here. I'm going to change it to 5. And enter. There it is. I was able to change. So for the, I had to change it individually here for the title and click away when you're done. Okay, and it auto adjusts the table. Okay, so I'm not going to finish the entire table. I just wanted to give you a few pointers on how to insert a table, how to change the text height, and also how to change the column heights and the column widths. Next thing I'm going to show you is how to create balloons. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at balloons, how to insert balloons, and how to change the frame around the text. Okay, so let's go back to our lecture notes. Okay, so once again, we learn how to create a table. You can individually change the text from here. Don't forget, when you double click in title, highlight the text first before changing the text height here, and then you hit enter. Okay, and to change the overall text height for all the data input, you can just go ahead and click here to go to table style, modify, and then you're able to go to the text tab to change your text height. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about balloons. This is the last topic we're going to cover in this lecture. So balloons. Okay, so we're going to use multi-leader, and then I'm going to show you how to add a balloon around your text. Okay, let me go ahead and move this table over. Let me first delete this one. I'm going to use the delete button on the keyboard. Move it over, there it is, hit escape. Okay, so if I wanted to add balloons to my assembly drawing, so we have multi-leader, click, and I'm going to click anywhere on this object, and I want to turn off ortho. You do not want a horizontal or vertical. try and avoid it. Sometimes you cannot when it gets crowded, but avoid horizontal and vertical leaders. Click, and I'm going to type in 1, and OK. And there's balloon 1. Now, my settings are already changed to add a circle around it. So how do we change it? So most likely yours is just typing in text without any frame around it. So let's go back to the lecture notes. Okay, so to change your settings so you can add a balloon around your text, click on this little downward arrow, and that'll take us to the multi-leader style manager. You can modify, and then you're going to go to this pull down, and you're going to select block. So that's the frame we're going to add around it. You can add a circular, detail call out, a slot, a circle, a box, or a hexagon, etc. Okay, so let me show you how to change the frame around your balloon. Okay, so we're going to go to multi-leader, click on this little downward arrow, click, and we're going to modify the standard. We're going to modify it. So I already had mine set up. So let's go to content. Okay, so most likely yours is set to none. Let me hit OK just to show you what happens. Close. So if I was to create a new leader, notice it doesn't put a frame around it. Okay, so let's go back to multi-leader style manager. We're going to modify it. Go to the last tab, and we're going to go to block. So we're going to put a block around it, and now we have the option of what type of block we want to place around it or frame. We can go with a circle. Okay, and close, and let's go ahead and add a leader again, and I'll call it, actually let me do the end bracket. So let me delete this one. Let's go to end bracket. Let's do the end bracket, multi-leader. Call it item number 2, and OK. There it is. We can always adjust it using the grips. Hit escape. Okay, let's say your text is too small, your arrowheads are too small. So we can go back to multi-leader style manager. We can go to modify. So you can play around with the scale. So here we have scale. We have scale of 10 right now. See what happens if I drop it down to 5. Okay, so I'm going to change the scale down to 5. Hit OK. Close it. And let me create a new leader. Notice how the scale changed. I went from 10 to 5. Most likely yours is set to 1. Okay, I'm going to use 3. This item 3 and OK. Okay, so this is a scale of 10 for these two, and this is a scale of 5. Okay, hit escape to deselect. All right, what about the arrowheads? What if the arrowheads are too small or too large? Let's go back to multi-leader style. We're going to modify it. Let's go to leader structure. And I'm looking for arrow here. Nope, don't see it. Let's go to the first one. Okay, here's the arrowhead. So I can change the size of the arrowhead. So right now it's set to 1.8. You know, let me set it down to 1. We'll go down to 1. And OK. And close. And let me add another leader. So go to multi-leader. Click on the end bracket. Notice the arrowhead is slightly smaller. Slightly smaller than the other arrowheads. Okay, this is also item 2. And OK. Actually, the arrowheads look about the same size. Let me see if there's another option to reduce the arrowhead size. Let's go back to multi-leader. Modify. So I thought this was the arrowhead size. Let's go to another one. Leader. Oh, here we have the scale. This is the scale I was looking for. Let's go to the other one. Okay, so this is a different scale. Let's go to leader structure. Let me change this scale here to 5. You know what? Let's choose a different one. Let's choose 4. And OK. And close. Ah, here it is. This is what I was looking for, the overall scale. So to change the overall scale, there it is. Go back to multi-leader manager, modify, go to the leader structure, specify scale. You know, instead of 4, let me go with 6. And OK. And close. So it changes the overall scale. Okay. All right, so I'll let you play around with the balloons, play around with the scales or arrowhead size. Okay, and that is how you create your balloons. And make sure they line up with your item numbers in your parts list. Okay, so now this is the end of the lecture slide, but let's talk about your assignment for this class or for this chapter, chapter 18, the last chapter in CAD 5. And again, this is extra credit. So this is the assignment. The assignment is for you to create in AutoCAD an assembly drawing of this assembly. Okay, so this is problem 18-2, which is to be completed in AutoCAD. So you are to first create detailed drawings of these individual pieces. So create a detailed drawing of the base, the sliding screw, and the V-anvil. And you will also need to create detailed drawings of each individual piece here. So this is hardware, but these are custom made. This is not something that's readily available at a hardware store. These are custom made. The hardware that you could find in a catalog or online didn't meet our needs, so we had to especially get something made. Okay, so these are all custom made, so you need to provide a drawing for these. Okay, the one item that you do not need to provide a drawing for are the set screw. So here we have a little set screw. Remember, a set screw is a screw with no head. This is something you can get from a catalog, so that you need to add to your parts list. Here we have another set screw. So this you can order from a catalog or online. Same thing with the hex nut. Okay, so the hex nut, something you can order on the catalog. This T-bolt had to be custom made. The washer had to be custom made so it can fit this counterbore hole. All right, all the other pieces you need detailed drawings. Okay, so let me show you the solutions. So this is what your drawing is going to look like in AutoCAD. You're going to create a parts list. You're going to create your assembly, your balloons, your detailed drawings. Notice instead of a right-hand side view, we have a left-hand side view. That's so that we can show the set screw locations. So this is a tapped hole where the set screw goes in. And again, the reason the set screw that goes in here doesn't have a head is so that you don't over tighten it and cause damage to the sliding screw that goes in here. Okay, so here's that sliding screw. We have the V-anvil. 2 views is enough. If you were to create a side view, it'll just look exactly like the front view. So 2 views are enough. Okay, and then we have this knurled nut. So knurled means it has a rough surface on the outside so you can grip it. So it has like almost like a diamond cut along the outside so you can grip it and turn it. Okay, and then we have this pad. So this is a pad that locks the sliding screw in place. And these are just phantom lines giving you an outline of the knurl nut. So it's just showing you how this little pad interfaces with the knurled nut. Notice it's shown in phantom lines because it's not part of this detailed drawing. It's just to give you an idea. Oh, okay, here we have a knurled nut and this little pad goes inside. Then we have this T-bolt or clamp bolt. And we have this custom-made washer. And finally, we have the other hardware, like the set screws and the hex nut. This is something you can just order from a catalog or online, so you don't need to provide a drawing for this. And as a matter of fact, this last sheet is optional. In the good old days before internet, we would have to create this drawing, but now everything is standardized. You can just order things from McMaster or Carlane. Okay, so I'm not going to walk you through this in AutoCAD, but I will provide you an example of what a student turned in a few years back. So this is what your drawing should look like. So again, this is something one of my students turned in a few years back. And you don't have to complete the entire AutoCAD assignment. You can get partial credit if you don't finish it. Okay, so this is what it's supposed to look like. Your parts list, assembly, your balloons. Now in this case, this was not a section view, so that's the reason we have hidden lines here. We do have hidden lines because this is not a section view, like in the previous problem in chapter 17. Okay, so this is just a regular front view of an assembly, so here we do show the hidden lines. Okay, so here's our base, our sliding screw, our V-anvil, the knurled nut, the pad that goes inside the knurled nut, our T-bolt or clamp bolt, and our custom washer. And again, you don't need the last page for the hardware, for the loose hardware. All you have to do is call out the loose hardware in the parts list. Okay, the set screws and the hex nut are called out, and we don't need a drawing for them. Okay, so once again, this is worth 100 points, and if you don't complete the drawing, you can get some partial credit. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 18.